Let me set the scene for you. A city, endless and gleaming, its skies lit not by stars but by a trillion pixels. Everyone is broadcasting. The poet, the guru, the executive, the rebel, all shouting their truth into the same infinite scroll. And in that ocean of light, a terrible truth emerges. To shine brighter than the rest is a fool's errand. You will only burn out. The real power lies not in your lumens, but in the shadows you cast, in the silence you create. We operate in an attention economy. That phrase is worn thin, but its law is absolute. The currency is not quality, it is not virtue, it is scarcity. Think of the most valuable things in the physical world. What gives a diamond its price? Its perfection? No, its rarity. What makes a secret powerful? Its truth? No, that it is withheld. This is the first and most critical reprogramming you must undergo. You must stop trying to be the best light in the room. You must become the only source of darkness. Because the human mind is not a logic processor. It is a pattern recognition machine, perpetually tuned to the rhythm of the predictable. The alarm rings, you hit snooze. The email pings, you glance. The notification flashes, you swipe. This is the trance of the modern world, a smooth, endless, frictionless slide into oblivion. Your high-quality contribution, your valuable insight, is merely another piece of predictable stimulus. It is absorbed without a ripple. It is noise that has learned to sound like signal. To become impossible to ignore, you must first become impossible to predict. You must be the interruption in the signal, the glitch in the matrix. This is not about being louder. It is about being an aberration, a strategically placed void. When everything pulses with constant availability, become deliberately scarce. When everyone overshares their process, cloak yours in silence. This does not make you disappear. It makes you a gravitational anomaly. The mind, confronted with a break in the pattern, does not simply note it and move on. It obsesses. It circles back. It tries to complete the sequence. Your absence becomes more compelling than another's presence. Understand the mechanism. When you create scarcity, be it of your time, your approval, your content, or your presence, you trigger a primal subroutine. You invoke the fear of loss. The brain is wired to prioritize potential loss over potential gain. A chance to avoid losing something it already perceives as valuable is a far more potent motivator than a chance to gain something new. By strategically withdrawing, you force the audience to perform a critical calculation. Have I lost access? And in that moment of uncertainty, you are all they can think about. You are no longer a supplier in a buyer's market. You are the curator of a limited exhibit, and the tickets are vanishing. This is the dark art of perceived value. You do not declare your worth. You engineer the conditions where others must discover it for themselves. Let them piece together the fragments. Let them connect the dots you have deliberately spaced far apart. The conclusions they reach on their own, in the quiet you have forced upon them, will be worth 1,000 of your proclamations. Their minds will fight to fill the silence you create with the most favorable interpretation, building you into something far greater in their imagination than you could ever be in their reality. But heed this. This is not a game of hide and seek for children. This is a tactical discipline. Your scarcity must be purposeful, not petulant. It is the silence of the predator, not the silence of the prey. It is the withdrawal of the general to the map room, not the retreat of the soldier from the field. Every absence must communicate unbroken focus on a larger design. It must whisper, I am occupied with matters of consequence, not I am ignoring you. So you must become a student of rhythms. Learn the predictable pulse of your arena. The hourly social post, the weekly newsletter, the constant availability, the desperate transparency, and then break its tempo. Disappear at the peak of expectation. Speak when you are assumed to be listening. Deliver value in a manner and at a time that defies the algorithm's hunger, because you are not speaking to the algorithm. You are speaking to the human being behind it, who is desperately tired of the machine's monotony. This is the foundational layer. Before you craft your message, you must first craft the vacuum into which it will land with devastating impact. Do not seek the spotlight. It is a crowded and desperate place. Instead, learn to switch it off for everyone else. And in that moment of collective darkness, all eyes will have no choice but to adjust and find you already watching them from the shadows. The stage is now set. Good. You understand the power of the void, the force of strategic silence. But a shadow, by itself, is just an empty space. To truly captivate, you must give the eye something to grasp in the darkness. Not a polished monument, lit by floodlights for all to admire. That is a target. You must become something far more compelling, a puzzle wrapped in a contradiction. And the most potent puzzle piece you possess is your own perceived weakness. Consider the flawless facade, the impenetrable armor, the unbroken smile, the record of endless success. It is designed to impress, and it does, for a moment. Then it becomes a wall. It creates distance. It whispers a lie of inhuman perfection that the human soul instinctively rejects. We do not trust the flawless. We cannot relate to it. And what we cannot relate to, we ultimately ignore, or worse, we seek to topple. Your instinct will be to hide your cracks, to bury your scars, to only present the finished, formidable whole. This is a critical error. You are discarding your most powerful tools of connection. I am not speaking of confession for its own sake, not emotional incontinence. That is just another form of noise, another predictable pattern of oversharing. I am speaking of strategic vulnerability, the calculated revelation of a single, chosen flaw, the weaponization of your past defeat. Think of it as architectural design. A fortress with smooth, unbroken walls is imposing, but it offers the observer nothing to hold on to, no point of entry for their understanding. But introduce a single, ancient crack in the foundation, one you clearly have repaired and integrated into the structure's strength, and everything changes. The eye is drawn to it, the mind engages. How did that happen? How did it withstand that? What does that weakness reveal about its true strength? The imperfection does not diminish the fortress. It makes it real. It makes its survival a story. It invites a secret alliance between the observer and the observed. This is the dark alchemy of the pratfall effect. A minor stumble, a revealed limitation in someone perceived as competent, does not reduce their stature. It increases their magnetism. It makes them human. And humanity, in a world of sterile, automated perfection, is the scarcest commodity of all. When you reveal a struggle you have mastered or a doubt you have wrestled into submission, you are not displaying weakness. You are displaying the evidence of your journey. You are proving your resilience not with words, but with a scar. But the true psychological power runs deeper. It creates what is known as cognitive dissonance. You present two seemingly incompatible facts. Here is a person of undeniable capability and results, and here is the proof they have been broken. The human mind cannot easily hold these two ideas without resolution. It is uncomfortable, and to resolve that discomfort, to make the puzzle pieces fit, the audience must construct a narrative. They must tell themselves a story about your depth, your perseverance, your hidden layers. They do the work of building your legend for you. Your revealed flaw is the seed. Their imagination is the soil. This is how you transform observers into accomplices. When someone learns a secret of yours, a real one, a chosen one, they are bound to you by the weight of that knowledge. They feel a sense of privileged insight. They have seen behind the curtain, and in doing so, they feel a stake in the play's success. They are no longer just watching the performance, they are protecting the secret of the trapdoor. Their attention becomes investment. Their interest becomes loyalty. The key, as always, is strategy. This is not a purge of your insecurities. It is a surgical release of pressure. You do not reveal the wound that is still bleeding. You reveal the scar that taught you how to move. You do not share the doubt that currently paralyzes you. You share the past doubt that you used as a compass to find a firmer truth. The flaw you reveal must be a chapter from a story you have already finished, one that demonstrates your core thesis of strength. It is the story of the broken rib that taught you how to breathe differently, making your stance stronger. It is the story of the betrayal that taught you to read the currents in a room, making you more perceptive. Let the world present its flawless, fragile masks. You will be different. You will present a reality that is tested and proven. Your scars are not evidence of where you were attacked. They are a map of every battle you have won. Show one. Let them trace its lines. Let them wonder about the weapon that made it. And in that wondering, they will forge a connection far stronger than admiration. They will forge understanding. Now you have their eyes, and you have their empathy. The void has a shape. It is time to give that shape a purpose. Now you understand the power of the controlled break, the strategic scar. You have given them a shape to fixate upon in the darkness. But a shape, once defined, can become familiar, and familiarity is the beginning of neglect. The mind catalogs the known and moves on, seeking the next novelty. To prevent this, to maintain that vital, taut focus, you must master a more subtle discipline, the art of incomplete revelation. You must learn the force of the unfinished sentence. The modern world screams with completion. Every story has an ending, every analysis a conclusion, every broadcast a clear call to action. This is a sedative. It provides the comfort of closure, the release of tension, and in that release, you are dismissed. Your message is neatly filed away. To be impossible to ignore, you must become an itch that cannot be scratched, a question that hangs in the air, demanding an answer that you will not provide. This is the power of strategic silence and deliberate absence, not the grand sweeping absence we first discussed, but a tactical internal silence woven into the very fabric of your presence. It is the pause that lingers a moment too long after a pivotal statement. It is the piece of critical information you pointedly withhold. It is the conversation you exit at its peak, not its conclusion. You must become a master of the unresolved chord. Psychologically, you are weaponizing the Zeigarnik effect. The mind, that relentless machine, has a peculiar flaw. It remembers and fixates on interrupted or incomplete tasks with far greater fidelity than on those neatly completed. An unfinished symphony loops in the memory. An unanswered question echoes in the silence of the night. A story without an ending writes its own continuations in the imagination of the listener. By leaving a gap, you are not creating emptiness. You are creating a psychic vacuum. And nature, as you know, abhors a vacuum. The audience's own mind will rush to fill it. Think of your communication not as delivering a finished product, but as providing the most compelling pieces of a puzzle. You give them the corners, a few pieces of the striking central image, but you withhold the connective tissue, the final segment that reveals the whole picture. You do not say, "This is what you must think." You create the conditions where they must think, where they must grapple, where they must come to you for the next piece. Their cognitive engagement is no longer passive reception, it is active, frustrating, and utterly captivating construction. This is why the mystery is more powerful than the manifesto. The manifesto is a closed door. It states its terms and ends the debate. The mystery is an ajar door, with a sliver of light cutting across a dark floor. It invites, it suggests, it compels investigation. Your silence on a key point is not a lack of information. It is a hook, baited with the audience's own curiosity. Their brains will work overtime, generating theories, possibilities, narratives. In doing so, they are not just thinking about you, they are thinking for you. They are building extensions of your idea inside their own skulls, making it a part of their mental architecture. Apply this to your actions. Disappear when you are most sought after. Be absent from the very arena you are credited with dominating. This absence will scream louder than any presence. Rumors will bloom in the void you leave. Anticipation will build like atmospheric pressure. Your return, when you choose it, will not be an entry, it will be a detonation. But understand the balance. This is not the silence of ignorance or the absence of cowardice. It is the silence of the Sphinx, not the silence of the empty tomb. It must be laden with the clear implication of withheld power, of knowledge being deliberately rationed. Your pauses must feel pregnant with meaning, not empty of thought. Your absences must feel like a strategic redeployment of forces, not a retreat. You are training them to listen for what you do not say, to watch for where you do not appear. You are teaching them that your words are merely the visible portion of the structure, and that the true foundation lies beneath, in the unspoken understanding, in the shadow of your implication. Their attention becomes an act of excavation. They will hang on your every word, not just for the word itself, but for the clue it might contain to the larger hidden text. So, speak, but leave the most important sentence unsaid. Act, but leave the final move unplayed. Be present, but let the most compelling version of you exist in the space you have taught them to imagine. Give them the key, but let the lock remain a mystery. You have learned to shape the void, to mark it with a scar, to leave within it an echoing question. You have made yourself a compelling mystery. But a mystery, in time, can become a mere curiosity. To transform that captivated attention into unbreakable allegiance, you must give it a purpose beyond yourself. You must provide a direction for all that focused energy. You must, in short, give them an enemy, not a personal rival. That is small and petty, and ultimately a distraction. I speak of a shared adversary, a common cause, a mission. The human psyche is not wired for passive admiration. It is wired for tribal conflict, for the clean, galvanizing clarity of us versus them. We coalesce not around ideals in a vacuum, but around opposition to a tangible threat. Your personal journey, your enigmatic silence, these make you fascinating, but a battle cry makes you a leader. This is the moment you frame the war. You identify the dragon that needs slaying. It could be an outdated ideology, a pervasive mediocrity, a silent injustice, a corrupt system, a lazy assumption that strangles progress. It must be real, it must be felt, and you must define it with a clarity that cuts through the static of everyday complaint. You give a name to the shadow they've all felt passing over them. This is not about creating a straw man. It is about focusing a diffuse frustration into a laser point. You are doing the difficult cognitive work for your audience. You are sorting the chaotic world into a simple, powerful narrative. Here is what we stand for, and here is what stands against us. You are activating the oldest and most potent psychological circuitry, the in-group and the out-group, the tribe and the other. When you successfully frame this battle, a profound shift occurs. Attention is no longer something you must capture. It is something they must bring to the front lines. Their focus is no longer a gift they bestow upon you. It is a weapon they sharpen for the fight. Your presence ceases to be a spectacle and becomes a command post. They are not watching you perform, they are reporting for duty. The question in their minds changes from what will he do next to what does the enemy do next, and how do we counter it? This taps into a deep need for belonging and purpose. In a fractured, anonymous world, you are offering a uniform, a banner, a shared identity that is defined by action and opposition. You are giving them a story to step into, one where they are not consumers of your content, but soldiers in your cause. Their engagement becomes proof of their allegiance. Their sharing of your message is not just an endorsement, it is a recruitment drive within their own circles. But understand the gravity of this step. Once you name the enemy, you inherit the responsibility of the conflict. You must be the foremost strategist, the most disciplined combatant. You cannot declare a war and then retreat to the sidelines. You must be on the wall every night, the first to face the storm you named. Your every action, every scar, every silence is now interpreted as a move in this larger game. Your personal narrative becomes a case study in the conflict. Your strategic vulnerability is no longer just about your past. It is a battle scar from the ongoing war. Your silence is not mere mystery. It is the quiet before a decisive counteroffensive. This framing also provides the ultimate justification for everything that came before. Why the scarcity? Because our resources are precious, and we do not waste them on the trivial. Why the strategic flaw? Because it shows I have been tested by the enemy and survived. Why the unanswered question? Because some truths are weapons, and we do not leave them lying in the open for the adversary to find. You are building a fortress, but not for yourself alone. You are building a citadel for everyone who sees the same threat. You are not the king on the hill. You are the architect of the hill and the first center. Upon its walls, your audience stops being an audience. They become a congregation, then a coalition, then an army. Do not fear polarization. In the economy of attention, polarization is not a side effect, it is a targeting system. The desire to be universally liked is the desire to be irrelevant. When you clearly define what you are against, you will inevitably repel those who are for it, or who are complacent within it. This is not a loss. This is a purification. It concentrates your force. It ensures that the attention you hold is heated, active, and ready to be mobilized. So, look out at the landscape of your domain. See not just the opportunities, but the obstructions. Listen not just for applause, but for the lie that everyone has quietly agreed to believe. Find the fault line. Then, with precision, strike the rock. And when the divide appears, stand clearly on one side and invite them to stand with you. The mystery has a mission. Now lead it. A mission has been framed, a battle line drawn. You have given them a cause, and in doing so you have gathered a storm. Now you must understand a critical, non-negotiable law of this arena. When you stand for something, you will create friction. When you move against the current, you will create wake. And in that wake you will find not only allies but debris, anger, confusion, hostility. The common instinct is to see this as failure, as a sign to soften the edge, to apologize for the disruption. This instinct is a surrender. You must learn to see this heat not as a threat, but as fuel. You must master the alchemy of converting negative reaction into pure, propulsive energy. Understand this. Universal approval is the hallmark of irrelevance. It means you have taken no real stance, challenged no sacred cow, disturbed no comfortable lie. It means you are a placid lake, reflecting back exactly what everyone expects. To be impossible to ignore is to be a boulder in that lake. You will create ripples, you will create turbulence, and some on the shore will shout that you have ruined the peaceful view. Their shouting is your confirmation. You are no longer part of the scenery. You have become an event. This is the principle of strategic provocation, not provocation for its own childish sake. That is mere noise. But the deliberate, calculated application of pressure to a foundational belief, a lazy convention, an unchallenged authority. You are not trying to be offensive. You are trying to be unignorably true to your framed mission, even when that truth is an inconvenient shard of glass in the collective mind. When you do this, you trigger two powerful psychological engines. The first is reactance. When people feel their freedom to believe or act in a certain way is threatened, they do not calmly reconsider. They push back. They rebel. They engage fiercely to reassert their autonomy. By stating an unpopular but reasoned counterposition, you are not persuading them. You are triggering this defensive, energetic reflex. And in that state of agitated engagement, you are the sole focus of their cognitive world. They are arguing with you, thinking about you, dissecting you. You have occupied them completely. Hatred in this economy is a form of twisted loyalty. It is an intense, ongoing investment of attention. The second engine is emotional arousal. The mind does not file away neutral information. It catalogs what is linked to strong emotion: fear, anger, surprise, even disgust. A polite, reasonable argument is easily forgotten. An argument that makes someone's pulse quicken, their face flush, their mind race to form a rebuttal, that is branded into memory. You are using the heat of their own negative reaction to sear your message and your presence into their consciousness. They will remember you long after they have forgotten 100 agreeable voices. This is the dark truth of polarization. It is a furnace. It burns away the lukewarm, the undecided, the casually interested. What remains are the forged metals, your devoted allies, and your fiercely committed adversaries. Both are concentrated forms of energy. Both are proof that you matter. An adversary who spends their time and intellectual capital trying to dismantle your position is, in a perverse way, building a monument to your importance. They are defining themselves in opposition to you, making you the central pole of their own worldview. But you cannot simply stand in the fire. You must direct it. You must be the non-reactive core around which the storm rages. When the negative reaction comes, the outcry, the criticism, the misrepresentation, you do not flinch. You do not lash out emotionally. You observe it with the detached focus of a sculptor watching chips fly from the marble. This is the material you are working with. Each piece of hostility is data. It tells you where the pressure points are. It reveals the fault lines in the common consensus. It shows you where your message is most potent because it is most disruptive. Your strategic silence now finds its highest use. In the face of fury, your calm is a weapon. Your refusal to engage on their emotional level is an infuriating, captivating superiority. It makes your detractors seem unhinged while you appear immovable. Your absence from the petty fray is not a retreat. It is a demonstration that you are operating on a different plane where their shouted insults cannot reach. Let them exhaust themselves against the image of you while you are elsewhere, planning the next move. This alchemy requires a discipline of spirit. You must sever the link between your sense of worth and the crowd's immediate applause or boos. Your trick is not their comfort. Your metric is the unwavering advancement of your mission. The heat they generate is simply a sign that the engine is working. Convert it. Use the outrage to amplify your message to those waiting for a voice. Use the controversy to force a conversation that was being politely avoided. Let the negative energy become the wind in your sails. So, do not fear the shout. Do not placate the heckler. Listen to the specific nature of their complaint. It will show you the exact boundary you have crossed, the exact taboo you have violated. And knowing that boundary is power. It means you know the limits of the old world and you are operating beyond them. The storm is not your enemy. It is your environment. Now, learn to fly in it. You have learned to generate heat, to forge alliances and enmities in the furnace of a cause. You have become a focal point, a figure around whom storms gather and energies coalesce. But there is a final, decisive elevation, a point where you cease to be merely a participant in the game, reacting to its rules and its chaos. This is the point where you become the architect of the very reality in which the game is played. You stop trying to control the pieces on the board. You begin to design the board itself. This is the ultimate application of dark psychology, controlling the context, not just the content. Anyone can craft a message. The amateur believes the message is everything. The tactician understands timing and delivery. But the architect knows that the message is almost irrelevant compared to the stage upon which it is received. The lighting, the acoustics, the history of the theater, the anticipation in the air before the curtain rises. These elements prime the audience to hear a symphony as a dirge or a battle hymn. Your task is to be the unseen hand that sets that stage. Think of it this way. You do not merely deliver a speech. You orchestrate the events that make the crowd hungry for that specific speech. You do not simply state an opinion. You carefully engineer the preceding hours, days, or weeks so that your opinion arrives not as a random thought, but as the inevitable, long-awaited key that turns the lock. You are not just a voice in the conversation. You are the one who, hours before, subtly shifted the topic, introduced the foundational metaphor, or discredited the opposing worldview, so that when you finally speak, your words feel less like an argument and more like a revelation. This is the masterful use of priming and framing. Priming is the subtle, pre-conscious conditioning of the mind. It is the background hum that tunes the instrument of perception before the first note is played. By controlling what information, what emotions, what symbols linger in the environment, before your main act, you predispose the audience to interpret your actions in a specific light. You make them see a strategist where others might see an aggressor. You make them hear wisdom where others might hear criticism. Framing is the act of defining the very terms of the debate. It is not what you say about the thing, it is what you establish the thing is before you even discuss it. Is a setback a failure or a test of resolve? Is your silence ignorance or tactical patience? Is your enemy a villain or a symptom of a diseased system? The frame is the box into which all subsequent thought is placed. Control the frame, and you control the boundaries of all possible reactions. Your previous lessons are the tools for this ultimate work. Your strategic scarcity is not just about your absence, it is about creating a context of exclusive access, where your eventual appearance is an event of heightened significance. Your calculated flaw is not just a personal revelation, it is a frame that defines your entire history as a narrative of resilient overcoming, shaping how every past and future action is judged. Your unanswered question is a prime, keeping the mind fixed on the specific dilemma you choose. Your declared enemy is the ultimate frame, constructing the entire worldview for your followers. Your use of negative reaction is simply the predictable weather within the climate you have architected. Now, you must think in layers. There is the surface layer of the action, the speech, the product, the decision. Then there is the deeper layer of the preparation, the rumors you let simmer, the old authority you quietly discredited, the symbolic gesture you made a week prior that only now finds its meaning. Then beneath even that is the layer of the ecosystem, the platforms you choose or avoid, the allies you elevate, whose voices create a chorus before your solo, the cultural moments you align yourself with or against. You are no longer merely a character in the story. You are the author, the editor, and the publisher of the anthology. Your audience does not see you writing the paragraphs on the page before them. They only feel the rising tension, the narrative pull, the satisfying click of the plot falling into place. A plot you wired from the beginning. This requires a detachment that borders on the inhuman. You must observe human reactions, the outrage, the admiration, the confusion, not as personal validations or attacks, but as data points on a blueprint. Did the frame hold? Was the prime effective? Is the context producing the desired interpretation? You are a scientist experimenting with the fabric of perception itself. So, before you act, ask yourself not, what should I do? But in what world do I want this action to occur? Then meticulously, silently, build that world around your target. Let them breathe its air, become accustomed to its rules, until your final move feels less like a shocking strike and more like the natural, inevitable law of gravity within the reality you engineered. Do not fight on their terms. Do not even choose between the options they present. Build new terms from the shadows, and then step into the light as its natural master.